Hey, what's going on, guys? So welcome back to another part of the course. In this part of the course, we're going to be talking about what is a fake out of a range and how they get filled. So pretty much, what is a fake out? All right. First thing, to make it simple, is a fake out is not just like, markets are manipulating your price. It's faking you out. That's not what a fake out is. A fake out is more so of, for example, we have a range, we get a false breakout and price breaks back into the range. All right. I'm going to draw it out for you guys, but just keep that in mind. That's what it is. All right. So let's say we have a range here. Range formed. Price pushes down, creates the range, right? So it creates the range now, and then now what we have here now is something like this. All right, so this is the range. Resistance formed, support formed. All right, so let's say now what happens is this happens now. Price were to pop up, right? Pop up. We're still in the range here. No breakouts yet, right? No breakouts yet. Let me go adjust the candle. Still moving here. And now what we have is this. Boom. All right, so that breaks out and now it falls back into the range though. Instead of technically, if you break out, you see price, you expect price to continue up like this. But in this case, what would happen is price would just break back into the range like this, right? Because the moment we break back into the range, the moment we actually close back inside the range after breaking out like this, price will usually come back in the range to fill it. 85% chance of price filling a range, right? At first, I think it's easier to just understand the simple concept of what a fake out is. And then later on, focus on getting those fake out entries, getting those anticipated entries into the range, right? It sucks if you're on the other side of the boat though, if you're the one getting faked out. But I'll talk about that later. I'll talk about how to avoid fake outs later on. But for now, we're just gonna focus on catching the fake out and what it actually is, right? So this is a fake out. It's a range, or actually, sorry, then we continue down. I forgot to put that as well. And then we continue down like this. Right, and then price will continue down, further down. All right, so fake out is a range formed. In this case, you have a range formed. You have a false breakout, and then as price comes back, closes back inside the range, what happens is it has an 85% chance of price to fill the range, and a 75% chance of us to go further down after we break below that minor support, after you fill the range. All right, so that's what a fake out is. This is a simple idea of a fake out. Right, so usually where I would look for entries on a fake out is I'll be very patient with it. I'll first notice the fake out, which is right here. And then once you get that breakout, if the next candle weren't to pop up and continue up as it breaks above a range and it were to pop back into the range and close bearish now, what will happen here is high chance now you have a price to come down to fill the range. Right, come down to fill the range. So my entry in this case will be roughly around this area right here. Right there. All right, my entry be around that candle opening, and I'll put my stop loss above the current candle high, the previous candle high, and then my TP be either fill the range or coming down towards the next support, which is let's say for some given reason there's a support down here. All right, let's say there's support down here. My TP would then be right there, right? Because you're anticipating price to fill the range. The fill the range has a higher chance to get filled than us to break below. Because for us to break below, you're probably gonna get a closure below the range, and that you're gonna get that obviously once you get a closure, right? But the original TP should just be for price to fill the range. All right, so obviously after price does come down and fill the range, you can actually get second entries in. So your second entry is obviously be the easier entry. It would usually be the candle closure below. So once the candle closes below, obviously that's your second entry for price to drive down towards your whatever next level support that you have, right? I don't know where that is in this case. But that is what a fake out is. All right, so it's not necessarily just, this market faked you out to go back down. We call it a fake out just because that's what it looks like. But overall, it's more of just there's once a resistance here, and then as this resistance breaks, this resistance becomes support, and price needs to hold the support in order for it to drive up. But instead of price driving up and then closes back in the range, it means that it's breaking below support, which means that we're going to fly down towards the next support, which is going to be down here at this level. All right, and if that breaks, then further down, right? So that's what a fake out just is. All right, but I'm going to show you guys on the charts of what it looks like, and an example of where it is. So let me go somewhere in the past there. I'll say right here probably was a fake out. They happen pretty often. But I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to go more in depth later on. but this is an introduction to fake outs, right? So I don't want you guys to get too confused so far. But okay, let's say this is a range here. You have a resistance formed right here, right? Resistance formed, and then you have a support formed down here, right? So let's say actually that's a pretty messy fake out. I'll go somewhere a bit clearer. That's probably a bit easier to describe. I think Gold yesterday had one probably, so let me go ahead and check that out. Yeah, right here, perfect. Let's go back to this. Let's just focus on this. All right. So what you have here is you have a resistance formed right here. Then you have a support formed down here, right? So what is this? This is a range, right? This is a range that we've been bouncing off of. We got a breakout. Price broke out above the resistance. And then once you broke out above resistance, everyone will say, oh yeah, buys. Look left, clean traffic. But keep in mind, right? Well, actually, I'll get into that later. But price came back in the range after. Price closed back inside the range. Bearish candle closure back inside the range. Therefore, that would be an entry candle. Or maybe take the starter play coming down, but I'll explain that also later as well. But price came back in the range. Therefore, high chance you have for price to fill the range now. Right? So price came down, filled the range. And then once you got closure below the support, we got continuation down. Right? So you guys see that? Simple concept. So the two of your entries could have been easily, or could have been ideally here. Stop loss above the candle high. TP down here, or 2. There are entries in right here as we close below the range. Entry is there. Stop loss above the previous candle high, and then TP wherever, next support, right? But that's what the fake out is, and that's how you can anticipate them and enter off of them. Those are your 2 ideal entries in the range. All right, and these usually, I'll say, I tend to look for them usually on the 15-minute time frame or the 30-minute time frame usually. But if they do happen on a daily time frame or a weekly time frame or the 4-hour time frame, the higher time frames, all you can do is just kind of anticipate the move on a smaller time frame. So let's say the higher time frame is a fake out. You have to fake out on a higher time frame. What I'll do is in that situation for sells is I'll drop down to a 30-minute, 15-minute time frame, look for sells on a smaller time frame as we break below certain ranges. All right, but I think I talked about that earlier on about using different time frames, but same exact situation. You just, again, the same thing that happens on the 15-minute, 30-minute time frame, like, fake out starter plays are the same thing that happens on the daily and weekly time frames. All you gotta do is kind of adapt and adjust to those levels breaking on a small time frame. All right, by having smaller levels on a small time frame, marked up, small ranges. But that's just the introduction to fake outs. I'll catch you guys in